Hi and welcome back to this next video titled Introduction. And really without any scripts or without any prompts, I just wanted to talk to you for a number of minutes regarding the background as to why this course was developed, how it is today for both myself and students internationally, and of course where things can go for both myself, students to date, and also you now that you've invested in this online course. And so, as you know, John Rayner, my name, founder of John Rayner Trading, my journey started, and I'll keep it really simple, long story short, as they say. My journey started, let's say, 30 years ago, which is really when I commenced my career as an engineer of electrical and gas and water. But it's one of those things that, as they say, Dad made me do it as a teenager and to study that and to complete those studies. But I'll be honest with you, I hated every moment of my engineering career. And so after my studies, I practiced engineering for a handful of years until such time that I moved away from England and I moved to Australia, and then I really started my life over again. Like you, I guess, I've had a number of chapters. When I moved away from the UK and when I moved away from the employee and salary mindset, which always used to bug me, I didn't have any solutions at that time. I didn't have the answers, being so young and being uneducated in the ways of this world and business. I moved to Australia, a new chapter started, and I found marketing and sales. So as I got involved in marketing and sales, everything was going great in terms of my sales performance. But again, being an employee, part salary, part commission, during my mid-20s, I was in a situation where I was working hard, working long hours, but again, my salary or my commissions were either capped or limited to a degree, depending on the company that I was working for. And so it was about 25 years ago when I escaped the rat race of being an employee to a company, and I wanted to branch out. And so to fast track, during about a 25-year period, slightly less than that, but during a 20 to 25-year period, I developed and I built and I led different companies in different industries in different nations. I was a conference speaker for business and an advisor to business to some very serious companies globally, Fortune 1000 and some Fortune 500 companies. And so my passion and my self-education and my delivery to clients was all around leadership, marketing, communication, sales, and negotiation. And so I had a very good run where I built the conference speaking and the advising business internationally, constantly traveling, constantly with clients, constantly wining and dining, constantly speaking, constantly advising. And then I would divert the profits from that business into three other companies which I started. One was a juice bar business in South America, which did very well. It was really a cash cow. And I was franchising that out, selling franchises. I started a property business where I had a team of people searching for distressed sellers. And then I had money partners in Israel who would fund the purchase of a property at discount pricing. And then we would just unload that or sell that off at a profit, typically within just months. And then last but not least, I had a digital marketing business. And this was back in the days of drop shipping, where you would market your product and then in relationship with a Chinese provider, they would drop ship from there to the countries that you were marketing and selling to. What I'm trying to say is that for 20 to 25 years, in addition to studies, personal studies with the topics I was passionate about, in addition to other life responsibilities, there I was, beating my chest, so to speak, thinking how well I had done, because at that time I was cash rich and I was very investment rich. However, I was extremely, extremely time poor, bearing in mind my typical day would include about 14 hours to 16 hours on average, and that's just running and leading the different businesses and multiple employees, and again, responsibilities in different countries. And then, of course, you understand, if you're an entrepreneur or a business owner or a leader in a business, you understand the other time-wasting complexities with governments and administration and legals and tax and all the things that you'll know of. So that was all seemingly going well. Again, cash flow rich, investment rich, but very, very, very time poor. And so it got to a stage where I went through a personal challenge back in 2016. A marriage without kids, a marriage that I'd been involved with for 10 years. That fell apart in the end of 2016. And why I say that to you is because, and why I'm going to share some personal things with you in this small introduction, is simply because I'm sure, especially if you're now mature in life and business, I'm sure that there'll be one or two, hopefully more, things that I touch on which might resonate with you. But ultimately, I went through that challenge, and without going into fine detail, at that time I was based in South America, the country of my ex-wife, and being a British person and an Australian person, thinking that the law of the process of law is on my side should somebody do something wrong. Unfortunately, certain people very close around my life decided to pay off government entities and have all of my assets transferred, including business ownership, to another person's name or other people's names. In other words, at the grand age of 43 at the time, at the grand age of about 43, more or less, after doing very, very well for 20 to 25 years, building a business globally, dozens of employees, keeping everything profitable. Unfortunately, I was left at about the age of 43 with two garbage bags, and I'm not exaggerating. A person kindly put my very personal belongings into garbage bags, and I was left with two garbage bags of clothes, which actually started a 2-year legal battle where I had to include civil lawyers, criminal lawyers for the theft, and also they call them forensic accountants, because obviously the amount that was stolen from me wasn't all of the tea in China, but it was a significant amount. It was basically my entire business career's work and funds and cash flow and assets, and even the companies were taken from me. So anyway, that started a 2-year process. Horrible. I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. But the problem was, I was thinking like a developed nation person, where there's some type of rule of law. I was thinking like a Western nation or a developed nation person in a more of a backwards environment at the time in Latin America. And so again, I didn't understand at the time. I was out of my depth, but you just have to pay certain people off or do certain things in a country within South America, I'm sure in other parts of the world as well. And it can work in the criminal's behavior as opposed to you as the innocent party. So at the age of 43, after being cash flow rich, asset rich, but time poor, then had to restart and work again with existing clients, with my conference business and advising and doing some other things business-wise. And so started again. And so I had to rebuild my cash flow base because I went to cash flow poor, I went to investment poor and time poor. So build up my cash flow base, but was asset poor and time poor at around the age of 43, 44, 45 years of age. But then I suppose you could call it a bigger challenge or just another one of life's experiences. Kicked me between the legs, I apologize for the analogy, or slapped me in the face. And that's when in 2019, I was diagnosed with a 2 kilogram or a 4.4 pound cancer tumor in my abdomen. 2 kilograms or 4.4 pound cancer tumor. And during the diagnosis, the oncologist said he gives me about 30 days to live, 30. Because the tumor was pushing up against my major organs, including the aorta, under the heart. So in a panic, I accepted a certain oncology path, and that took me down a very dark place physically and mentally because of the chemo and the radiotherapy and the drugs and the upcoming surgeries they wanted to do, etc. But the point I wanted to make is, after being not bankrupted, but pretty much wiped out at the age of 43, picked myself back up in terms of cash flow, but investment poor and time poor. Then at the age of 46, 46, then of course I was diagnosed with this life-threatening medical situation. Within a 6-month period, I fired my oncologist, and this is not a medical conversation, it's something personal, but I fired my oncologist and I purely just detoxed my body with juicing and herbs and minerals and oils and lots of different natural protocols or remedies, and it was literally a miracle. I came back to life, literally resurrected from death's door or close to death's door, and within 6 weeks, 40 days, 6 weeks, I started traveling again and I started to do conferencing again. So I recovered, or started my recovery period during the January of 2020. I got well again, started working again with existing clients and new clients, etc. And then what happened during March 2020, the whole world went into shutdown. But of course, my bread and butter at the time as a business owner, traveling, doing conferences, and it all sounds very interesting, but at the time, my entire business was shut down, obviously for a long period of time, in terms of I couldn't travel, I couldn't have an audience in front of me, and of course, as economies were declining during and post the pandemic of 2020, of course, a lot of companies and existing clients or new prospects were very nervous about what's to come, and therefore they weren't buying my services or paying for my services like I'd been familiar with in the past. So I was very, very blessed and very fortunate that during 2018 I met an incredible woman and with 2 wonderful sons. And during 2018 we started a relationship, and that person supported me, that family supported me through my entire oncology and cancer and recovery journey. But what's most important is that during the pandemic, I now just didn't have my mouth to feed. I was planning for marriage and to adopt a family. So now there's myself and there's a wife and there's 2 sons. And so, of course, I'd taken on more than probably I had expected prior, especially during a time of quarantines, lockdowns, cannot work, cannot produce funds. Now, in addition to this, rightly or wrongly, some might call it conspiracy, but there's a saying more recently in the 2020s that, the difference between conspiracy these days, the difference between conspiracy and reality is typically about 3 to 6 months. You can work that out for yourself. So here I am with restarting my whole world after being wiped out with a divorce in 2016 and very long, elongated legal processes, expensive legal processes, which didn't work out in my favor, as I'm sure you've calculated. Restarting to build cash flow, then got wiped out with the oncology report and the cancer report, started to rebuild again, and now I've embraced a wife and a family, and of course I need to be responsible for all provision and protection and education, etc. But really what the key point is that when I was at death's door, and I was literally that close, when I was at death's door, I can honestly tell you, I didn't think about any of the chest-beating perspectives I had prior in my life during my 20s and 30s and 40s. I didn't think about money. I didn't think about investments. I didn't think about properties. I didn't think about cash flow. There was nothing I was interested in. Nothing I was interested in except two things. Number one is more time to live for me. And number two, how do I gain time to be with my new family? So all I was interested in at death's door was one thing really, and that was time, and obviously time to do the things that I'm passionate about, and time to be with my wife, my boys, my family, and that was it. So when we hit the pandemic in March of 2020, I realized very quickly that if I wasn't able to produce profits from a phone or a computer at home, then times might be tough ahead. And in addition to that, I haven't shared with you, and I won't say too much, but one of my personal education projects for at least the last 20 plus years has been global economy, global finance, geopolitics, geomilitary, and a whole range of topics which affect every single human on the planet, wherever you live, first world, developing nation, backwards nation. So my personal passion and personal education project was to look at those topics and try and understand how the jigsaw pieces fit together. And whether you believe in this or not, it's showing its true colors now. But many years ago, I was reading about Agenda 30. I was reading about Agenda 25. I was reading about Agenda 20. 20 being a pandemic globally, in order to bring in restrictions, in order to change constitutions and laws and mandates, and also to initiate the collapse of small to medium-sized business. And then, of course, Agenda 25 by the end of is 2025, where there's a greater plan of economic collapse globally, and all of this leading towards 2030, where certain powers that be and ruling powers that be would like to have control over every single person's lives, finance, movements, food intake. And of course, that's going to be done based on digital and artificial intelligence systems. Now, without going down that rabbit trail, whether you do or do not believe in and or understand these things, what I realized is that my need to produce cash flow from my phone or a computer at home was going to become more necessary even after 2020 and closer to 2025. So I simply followed the money. I simply followed the money, and I looked at the time in 2020, I looked at what industries produce more profits and or produce more millionaires, multimillionaires within the last decade. And of course, that's obviously been the crypto markets. And even though these are reasonably misunderstood globally by the majority of people, I would say, in my estimation, I'm probably wrong, but in my estimation, more than 90% of people, probably more like 95, but more than 90% of people have absolutely no understanding of the benefits of using a different asset class, trading a different asset class, how to store that, how to monetize that, how to utilize that on a daily basis, which are all things I go into during your course here online. And so I, in effect, after following the money, I decided that I didn't want to buy and hold the majority of cryptos because, as you can understand, it's such a volatile world. And a lot of the cryptos that are out there, and of course now there's thousands and thousands and thousands, they're just rug pulls, they're worth nothing, it's all perception. And so I didn't want to get involved in the hype of, buying a particular coin because a wealthy person mentioned it online. Instead, I just wanted to take advantage of the volatility. And I decided that if I can put together a strategy that works at least 60 to 70% of the time, and I can jump onto a trade moving to the upside or the downside with leverage, meaning that you can gain multiplied profits. So if I'm in a trade to the upside or the downside and it moves 5% in my favor, but I'm on 10x leverage, obviously the gains are 50%. And then we mitigate risk accordingly. Excuse me. So I decided to trade cryptos on a daily or regular basis, and having invested literally thousands and thousands of hours, having paid tens of thousands of dollars to study other people's ideas, strategies, or preferred indicators, after so much time and effort and input, wins and losses, I had a eureka moment a number of years ago, and that led to a strategy that gives me, on average, a 77 to 88% win rate, which, if you understand the world of crypto, that's a phenomenal win rate. But look, even if it was only 70%, and you were losing 3 trades out of 10 with well-calculated risk mitigation, single-digit profit loss, but you're winning 7 out of 10 with double-digit profits, sometimes triple-digit profits, you can do the math. You come out a winner and profitable at the end of any given week or month. So put this strategy together, and my cash flow went through the roof. And ironically, during the last 4+ years, I gained more cash flow based on income and profits. I gain more cash flow now year on year than I did any years during my 30 years of entrepreneurship, 30 years of leading business internationally and working 14 to 16 hours a day on average. So in effect, was having a blast during 2020, winning, profiting, and then of course once all of the restrictions subsided later during 2020 and people started to get back to somewhat normal, I had ex-providers, I had ex-clients, I had ex-colleagues, ex-investors. I had a range of different people letting me know how bad things were for them. Yet at the same time, I had a smile on my dial and I was enjoying every minute, every hour, every day. And bearing in mind the big kicker here is that in order to apply the strategy which you're going to learn in this course, only requires about 30 to 60 minutes per trade or per day, depending on how often you trade. And so not only was I gaining more cash flow, not only was I gaining more profits than ever before in my business career, but now I'm absolutely time rich, time flexible, time free, because I'm investing now 30 to 60 minutes per day or per trade whenever I choose to invest time in trading. Very, very different to the two wipeouts which left me cash flow poor, investment poor, and time poor. So life during 2020 just literally took a massive leap to the upside in terms of time and profit and cash flow, being with my family, doing the things I love to do. And then what happened is, as I was listening to everyone's challenging stories and how their business is suffering and how sales are down and how profits are suffering and a range of other business challenges and time challenges, people started to ask me, John, please teach me your strategy. And I said, no, I don't want to go down the path of starting another business and then having to be responsible and giving more time away to teach other people when I earn more than sufficient and have more than enough time for myself in my current position and condition. However, particular persons, high net worth and medium net worth, basically threw money at me. And so I would be paid by one-on-one coaching clients between $25,000 and $50,000 US. And so I couldn't say no, bearing in mind it was very easy for me, especially as an ex-trainer and an ex-educator, adult educator, to show people my very simple strategy, very effective and very efficient and very simple to embrace and absorb and to apply. So at this stage, I've now had the fortune of training or educating 21 different people in different nations, close to 21 nations. And what goes along with that is the fact that because I've posted just results, no marketing for what I do, no selling for what I do, just because I would post my results on LinkedIn, my LinkedIn account, or my Telegram channel called John Rayner Trading. Simply put, I'm solicited constantly, and especially now a few years down the track, 4 years down the track, nearly 5 years down the track, especially now that we can all see how economies are suffering even worse than, say, 2019, 2020. And if anyone's got their eyes open or their head out of the sand, I think it's very easy to see that things are not going to get easier before they get better. And so I don't want to use words like panic or concern or fear, but I think that a lot of people are concerned about the near and the foreseeable future. And so I'm solicited constantly by people via LinkedIn or via Telegram or WhatsApp or people in my network internationally, solicited to educate them and teach them my strategy. But what I've done for the last years is only select. I've only selected a couple of students per month because I really don't want to or need to give my time away. Otherwise, I might as well just go back to building a business and having a, what's the word? A business style lifestyle, reducing my time. So it's got to the point where I was approached by someone who said, look, John, based on the solicitations by multiple people per month, why don't you produce a digital course where you only have to invest a short amount of time to make this thing happen, which is what you've invested in, and talk to people via email or other channels to invite them to a webinar. And then after the webinar, if people are interested, allow them to invest in the course. If they're not, no harm done. So I followed that recommendation. And so this is why we're here today together, following this introduction and background, which I appreciate you listening to. And it's to say that what I've been able to do now with a great team around me is to put together this digital online course for John Rayner Trading. And now that you're invested, and now that you're going to follow the yellow brick road or the bouncing ball, I can't applaud you enough for investing. I can't thank you enough for investing. And what my ultimate goal is that obviously you gain superior returns on your investments, not in 5 years, 4 years, or 3 years, as if you were investing in a standard or typical type of, small business. But I'm hoping that you really gain wins with a high win rate, a very steady and consistent win rate, and obviously double and sometimes triple digit profits per trade. And my great hope is that your return on investment will be quick and very, very worth your while and your time. And ultimately, like the lifestyle myself and my family experience now, we are cash flow rich. Thankfully, in the last number of years, I've been able to reinvest in gold and silver and other assets. We can talk more about that during the course, and I'll expose a little bit more about that. So it's great to be back in a position of cash flow rich, investment rich, but more importantly, and more special for me and my family, is that now we're very time rich and time free and time flexible. Look, no scripts, no prompts. Just wanted to talk to you from the heart, from my experience as to where I came from briefly, why I do what I do now, and why I've been able to offer that to you in this form of a digital online course with John Rayner Trading. Really appreciate you watching this video, and I can't wait to see you in the next. Okay, ciao.